I promise you, if I'm elected president, you're going to see the single most important thing that changes in America is we're going to cure cancer.
When I heard him say that, it immediately reminded me of George Nethercutt, who broke his term limits pledge because he was so important to his district. And one of the things he said at the time, this was back in 2000, was that he had to stay in Congress to find a cure for diabetes and for cancer. He was going to do two horrible diseases. Biden's only giving us one, but it just seems to me to be so beyond the pale for a politician to pretend that their ability to throw our money at a problem, and of course Biden, they had the moonshot when he was vice president, and they were going to spend all this money to cure cancer. It's just so offensive. And yet, as I was, I posted it on Facebook at This Is Common Sense, and also on my personal page. And in arguing with people, the defense of Biden was simple. Trump. We can't say anything bad about Joe Biden because Trump's bad. And of course, you hear all the time when someone criticizes Trump that, oh, we can't criticize Trump because Biden or Sanders or Warren. And, there's so many horrible politicians out there that I'm afraid we can never criticize anyone ever again. And that's kind of our stock in trade. So, I just think we ought to be able to criticize people for saying things that are stupid, that are offensive, because really it's not just that it's dumb to say I'm going to cure cancer because Biden, I made the joke in the commentary that, you wonder why they don't have a politician on call at hospitals. It's offensive because it's really suggesting to us that somehow these guys are wizards, and they're kind of the same sort of wizard that the Wizard of Oz was. They're standing behind a curtain pretending with a lot of sound and smoke and mirrors, and we're going to get all the wizardry that we have, none from them. And but I think not only is it offensive and so on, it showed me just how bad the conversation has gotten in politics outside of these rotten politicians, that decent people can't seem to discuss politics without just this knee-jerk that, well, the other guy's bad, therefore I don't have to confront the badness of my favorite politician. And it actually leads to another commentary this week, which was the Delaware story, where there's a bill in the legislature that they're pushing that would allow school districts to raise people's taxes without having a voter referendum. And of course, this politician argued that, well, as long as they know the money's there, meaning that the school district officials know they can grab your tax dollars anytime they want, they won't abuse it, which is kind of the most backwards thing you could ever imagine. As long as they know they can steal your money anytime they want, of course they would never do it. And of course they will do it. But I also found that interesting in the discussion about it, because so many people wanted to argue about whether schools need more money or they need less money. There was almost no quarter given to the idea that, wait a second, the process is important. If voters have no ability to say yes or no to spending, one, of course, spending is going to get even more out of control than it is when they do have some say-so. But if you believe in democracy, and I'm talking about, just the basic democratic checks on government, I'm not talking about, oh, we're going to vote on every move everybody makes. No one's for that level of democracy. But basic democratic checks on power can be ripped away, and all we're going to do is fight about the money. And I'm not talking about politicians. We know they're going to fight about the money because they need that money to buy votes. But the rest of us have to have some appreciation for a process, for checks and balances, and for us to have a democratic check. If we can't convince our neighbors, if we want more spending for schools, and we can't convince our neighbors that that's the right thing to do, we don't get to do it. You know, and in the same way that if we don't think there should be more spending, but all our neighbors vote for more spending on some referendum, you know, we don't like it, but we at least recognize there was some process. For it to simply be hiked up by the very people who are spending the money, who of course are always going to be for spending it, it's a bankruptcy that is leaving the sphere of politics and entering the world where normal, decent, you know, people with some common sense are supposed to live. That's you and I and our neighbors. And that is frightening.